Good morning and
Good
welcome
morning.
to Cooler Talk with Rhonda and Cynthia. Today's topic is how much is too much? How much
Indeed.
of anything is too much? And we're going to start out because Cynthia has some thoughts on this. And so we'll let you begin.
Yeah, well, I thought we were going to, last week when we were brainstorming this topic, I thought I was probably going to talk about is there such a thing as too much financial abundance? But today, as I was pondering the question, how much is too much? I started thinking about overwhelm and biting off more than I can chew. Which I might have done that.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Do
Uh,
tell.
do tell. This is something that I see myself doing. This is not a new experience for me. I get excited when I get involved in something new, and I just want to dive in, and I will plunge right into the deep end. Maybe this was inspired by Jason's story from last week, where he got in like all in, and he wanted to 10 times his action and 10 times his results, and that's kind of what I've done, and I've reached this point where I think I've maybe bitten off a bit more than I can chew. Not to mention, I've realized that as I do that, the universe has responded by giving me more than I can chew as I'm chewing. And so this huge project that I've been working on for the past couple months, well, the
Yeah.
client has invited us for to compete for two other related bits of business. So, obviously everybody's like excited in a frenzy. I am now juggling work with three teams towards the same client, trying to like basically herd three sets of cats, and and I've decided I don't want to adopt any of them because I can't handle all the fur. And these aren't exactly like the cuddliest people anyway. So on this topic, my big question is, and maybe this is one for you, Rhonda, is how do you pivot when you realize you've bitten off more than you can chew?
Oh, yeah, that's not an easy topic because I don't like to give up. I'm like the Energizer Bunny. I'll just keep pushing, 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 and pushing,
Yeah,
and then I crash.
yeah,
And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And I yeah, exactly. Um, and once I realize I've been over my head here, I
yeah,
realize I need to slow down,
yeah.
take a look at everything I've been doing, regroup, and focus on what's working.
Yes, yes.
And that eliminates a lot of things when you do that.
Yeah,
And just last week, I actually have been doing that this week, and my stress level has gone down. And I'm trying a new yet similar tactic, but it's more focused.
okay.
So yeah, biting off more than I can chew. I have to admit it first off. I'm in over my head.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
In over my head. How do I get out of this? But it's more like how do I refine it and make it more effective.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Yes. Oh, I know this subject very well.
Yeah, so you and we have that in common. I mean,
Yeah.
I looked at it and I was like, okay, how do I pivot? Do I turn back? Do I push through? Do I quit and let go? And like turning back, quitting and letting go just like did not seem like viable options to me, even though I know that they are they are viable options and that I should actually spend some time looking at those options and just saying, what would be really the con of, you know, quitting and letting go or turning back and realizing like I need to spit this mouthful of burger or whatever I bit too much of out because like otherwise I might choke on this. Um, so, but I realized like my gut reaction or my first response is to push through. And I realized, okay, but like I have been in this situation too many times or way more times than I can count. And I always push through and I always seem to make it through, but there's a lot of discomfort that
Mhm.
goes through that process. And I just wonder if there's some way of pushing through that doesn't require breaking your jaw.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I so relate. Yeah, overwhelm is just overwhelm, and over being overwhelmed is pretty much thinking about too much at the one time and thinking about everything
Mhm.
instead of breaking it down into compartments.
Mhm.
Okay, what
Mhm.
can I do today?
Mhm.
And what can I do to get rid of this overwhelm? Well, what I'm
Right.
sometimes I personally I try to go too fast and too ferocious,
Mhm.
and but I think that comes with experience too. As you as we go along, like I'm turning down a lot of training things I see because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm already on this path and I want to finish this training first
Right.
before I
Yeah.
move on to the next one.
Mhm.
I realized last week that it's literally impossible to watch all of the videos that all of the people I know post. It's
Right.
impossible. And it's like I have to just if I want to look at any of them, it's just like okay, what's on my mind today, and which ones relate to that,
Right.
and that has cut down a lot of time I have spent on Facebook.
Mhm.
um, because I noticed that I'm like spending way too much time here. Sometimes I'll watch too much just because I'm sorting through an issue or I'm just trying to escape.
Mhm.
That's not very productive.
Mm.
So,
So I guess that's that. I've heard two things, and one is, how did you get involved in this thing first? Like, was it an intentional involvement or getting involved in, or was it like an accidental, you backed into this space and now you're wondering how you ended up in here? Um, and I can say definitely it was more of like an accidental in my case with these projects, right? I mean, there an argument could be made like, well, you were already involved in, the mother project and now these related projects, you're just the automatic fit. But I could have, and for future reference, I mean, who knows when this will happen, but like for future reference, I could look at a similar situation and say, well, I've actually just joined these other two projects by default because I was originally part of the original project. But
mm,
that doesn't mean that I need to lead or be a part of these other two related projects. And
mm,
I wasn't intentional in, you know, I guess claiming ownership about it. And so ownership was foisted on me and I took it as well. And I probably should be more intentional about being on the receiving end of something that's being handed over to me.
or learning to say no.
Yes. That's the much simpler way of wording it. You
You
know,
know
it's
me,
like that ball.
I like to bring it into one or two thoughts, into a one little
Yeah.
idea there, but that sums it up.
No is an option. No is an
Is it?
option.
But when you're an employee, is it an option?
Well, when you're an employee that's already burning overtime on one project, and then they're sort of saying, like, oh, but this project has given birth to two new projects, you know, will I actually even be an effective contributor to these two other projects?
Well, that's a good point.
Or am I choking on the too much that I've bitten off of this sandwich?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you hit the point.
Yeah,
Can I still be effective taking this added
yeah.
responsibility on?
So, and that takes focus, that
Mhm.
level of intentionality, I mean,
Mhm.
and there is a certain focus that takes place when you're engaged in any activity.
Mhm.
It's easy to go into autopilot, especially when you're good at something or you're used to doing something. And so, it's sort of like, oh, okay, this is my job. Let's keep, moving forward with this. But actually, um, if I had been more intentional, I probably would have said, like, let's see if we can find somebody else who, has the bandwidth and time in their calendar to actually be effective at this.
Delegating.
Yeah,
Delegating.
delegating. Hey, Jason.
Hello, Jason.
So, but we're talking about delegating now in terms of the how much is too much, and I want to ask you, Rhonda, how do you delegate being, self-employed and having to make those decisions? Do you delegate or do you see that as an option for you?
Well, I'm solo, so there really is. Well, no, there are options actually. There are options by automating some things that
Mm-hmm.
I, uh, sending messages out. There is automation to help with that. There are resources for writing that I can refer to.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have to, kind of borrow things, but put it
Sure.
into my own words, that's a big time saver.
Yeah.
Um, and most of the products I promote have their own copy written up about their products, so I don't have to start from scratch. So
Mm-hmm.
in a way, that's not directly delegating, but I accept I just pick what they've written and modify it to what I think would be a better presentation or a
Right.
presentation that's more in my words than
Right.
theirs. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm researching right now. I'm trying JV Zoo as opposed to ClickBank. Doing some experimenting with JV Zoo products
Yep.
and the Cash Network.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done a shift this week in that respect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I like the direction I'm going with it.
Right.
The numbers are going to tell me in the end
Right.
whether the direction I took there is the best direction, most productive direction um,
Right.
on that. And I so uh, I and I've been pondering that idea recently about do I really want to build a team underneath me?
Mm.
Um, and and I'm weighing how much responsibility is involved in that,
Yep.
and whether I want to do it in the first place, because it does take a tremendous amount of energy to do that.
Yes.
And my question is, do I have that energy?
Right.
So, some of my younger counterparts, they have all the energy in the world, and
Mm-hmm.
they're fabulous salespeople, and they can be on. They can be on every single day. And
Mm-hmm.
I've accepted the fact that I'm not on every single day.
Right. Right.
So I've had to pare it back
Right.
because I get overwhelmed and then
Mhm.
exhausted. Then,
Mhm.
then out of that exhaustion, I'm useless for a few days.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
re-energize.
Yeah.
I'd love to say that I'm a spring chicken, but I'm not.
Right. I like as you're talking, and I just keep thinking like, intentionality seems to be sort of like that secret ingredient to protecting that too fast, too ferocious approach, so that you can still move too fast and too ferociously, but you can do that with a sense of intentionality. And I
Right.
really like that thought of saying like, okay, do I want to do this all on my own, or do I want to build a team? Does that make sense for me? Because I actually did in the early days of my creative writing freelance days. Um, I actually did start by developing a team of two much younger writers, a lot less experienced, to handle some of the more what I considered sort of standard writing elements
Mhm.
for my clients. But I found that it was very time consuming and energy draining. Like, I did not find joy in,
Mhm.
having to explain myself again, clarify what is considered quality by me and by my clients. and
Right.
and then having to sort of run after them, and it's like, okay, in all of this time that we've gone back and forth in explaining the deliverable, getting the deliverable, correcting the deliverable,
Mhm.
training on how that deliverable needs to be for my clients. I could have just delivered the deliverable and probably like four times over. And at that point, I was like, you know what? This business is not a team business. So I either have to like change my concept, or I have to just be okay with being, a sole, let's say a sole proprietor, sole
Mhm.
business owner, and really, if anything, delegate those areas that really consumed my time that had nothing to do with the work that I did, like sending invoices and keeping track of my taxes and accounting type things.
Right.
So yeah, intentionality. I
Mhm.
did hear once, a few years back, and this is from some spiritual somebody, that life does not hand you something that you cannot handle.
Yeah.
But when you've bitten more than you can chew, that does not seem accurate.
Well, maybe that's the lesson in the first place. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Maybe that's the lesson in the first place. Hey, you're biting off more than you can chew. It's too
Again,
much. And you have to learn to say no. Rhonda,
yeah,
learn to say no. You
right,
just pause just for a moment and say, do I have the time or
right,
energy to add this onto my plate?
right.
And just taking that little question back does help regroup. But it's a
I
process in learning that and
It is a
and
process.
and you're right. We're never presented with anything in our life that our high that the universe, God doesn't think we can handle.
Handle.
There are also lessons in there.
Right. I mean, and they say like, all of those challenges and struggles, make what doesn't kill you makes you stronger type of thing.
And that's so true.
Mhm,
The older
mhm.
you get, the more you understand and realize that. You
Yes.
know,
So that
we're
did
still
lead
alive.
to it did lead to like a seed of a question though, from this
Okay.
how much is too much
Yeah.
question, which is there such a thing as too much in context of understanding Life doesn't hand you anything that you can't handle. And is this one of those cases where you are challenging yourself to push the limits of what you've accomplished so far?
Good
So,
question.
have you been treading water? Is it fear talking? The feeling like you've bitten off more than you can chew? Or is it just fatigue, which is a very legitimate feeling to have, but it is important, I think, to distinguish between the two.
Mm.
Is it fear? Is it fatigue? And maybe that helps you decide whether you need to stop, turn back, quit, let go, what have you, spit it out.
Well,
Um,
the question that comes to my mind is limiting beliefs. So
uh-huh.
uh-oh, learning to discern if what if you're resisting progress.
Oh, I love that. Learning to discern if you are resisting progress.
Everything is about mindset, really.
Yeah.
And think about it. Okay, why am I, yeah, ask oneself, why am I resisting this? Why am I making this so hard?
Uh-huh.
Am I making this harder than it needs to be? And what am I resisting? And you can
Right.
look back on old beliefs, limiting beliefs. Old beliefs are, you don't dare tell yourself, I can't handle this, because
Mm-hmm.
that's like inviting it,
Mm-hmm.
really, especially if you verbalize it.
Yeah.
Uh, Choosing to handle it is a different story. I don't
Yeah.
choose to be involved in this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know you're on the right path and going in the right direction,
Mm-hmm.
these mental obstacles come up all the time,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and all the time. I am speaking from my own experience too, and it's good to have somebody that can help you see if there's a limiting belief holding you back,
Yep.
and try to get past that limiting belief. It takes work, and that's what's so beautiful about the book Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
It addresses those issues,
Yes, it does.
and it's very uncomfortable to change. And I'm
Yeah.
finding the older I get, the more challenging it is to make changes up here,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in what I do, how I do, and why I'm doing it. And I catch myself sometimes overthinking, but uh, there's a fine line between. I think there's a fine line between feeling good about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Does it bring you joy?
Mm-hmm.
And resistance.
Yeah. Yeah. Resistance. Yeah. I guess in this case, I asked the question about, is it fear or fatigue? And fatigue, I think, is just, let's say, a physical response. Like your body says,
Yes, and
that's
it
it.
is.
I
Yeah,
need sleep. We need to pause. It's a physical response. Whereas fear
right.
is a mind response,
Exactly.
that
But
says,
that
I'm not familiar with this. I'm
and
overwhelmed.
the
Mhm.
physical response, though, is a message from the mind.
Yeah. I,
What you're thinking, the fear.
mm,
So, I'll give you an example. I hope this is a good example. I went out to California with my mom. This was many years ago. I think I was about 25. And we were in San Francisco, and we took a little side trip on a bus. Now, neither one of us was used to a bus system,
uh-huh.
so we took the bus somewhere and got off at the wrong exit. and it was obviously a bad neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
Okay. My mom was freaking out
Riots.
and she was terrified.
Mhm.
And my thinking was, okay, act calm, be calm, act like you know what you're doing.
Mhm.
And so I was able to calm her down by saying, another bus is coming. Just be aware of what's going on around you.
Yeah.
Just look like you belong here. And nobody bothered us.
Uh-huh.
So she did calm down. Another bus did come along. But that was a frightening experience, especially for her.
Mhm.
And I my focus was on being mindful of the surroundings
Mhm.
and appearing confident, like don't bother with us, we don't have time for you,
Mhm.
type of thing. So she, like I said, she did calm down eventually, but her immediate response was terror.
Terror.
uh,
Yeah, well, but I guess it goes back to some of the earlier comments that you've really sort of brought to this conversation, which is about focus, intentionality, not letting sloppy thoughts like run away with you,
yeah.
and really just sort of saying like, okay, we're going to focus in this moment, and
Mm.
maybe even like trim off the fat from this moment, whether that fat is fear or even the fatigue. Like sometimes it's like, okay, I realize I'm tired. How do I address this problem? So
Yeah,
yeah,
get rest.
yeah, get rest.
I
You
had to
know,
do that last night. I was in bed by 9 o'clock, and I woke up this morning thinking, God, I went to sleep really fast after I hit the
yeah,
bed. And this is after a week of not being able to sleep for one
and
reason or another.
psychological resistance is takes a physical toll,
Yes, it
so
does.
if like if you're even sort of mentally like this is too much, I can't handle this, la la la, and you're always sort of saying that, like you say, it's a mindset shift,
Well,
then you're gonna be completely exhausted, and then you really have bitten off more than you can chew. In fact, you keep biting into the damn burger.
exactly. What gets accomplished by that thinking? What good comes out of that?
Nothing,
That
but
type of
it's
thinking.
reflexive. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Well, it's 9:58. It's 58 minutes after the hour. So I just want to be mindful of the time.
Yeah, no, we are. I think we're
And,
wrapping up, but
yeah.
today we said sometimes too much is too much, and you might have bitten off more than you can chew. We talked about pivoting, we talked about being intentional. What else did we
Mhm,
talk about? You talked about being aware of your resistance.
mhm,
And you actually said, and I'm going to quote you because I love this. Um, Being in that moment is learning to discern if you are resisting progress
mhm,
and walking that fine line between,
mhm,
realizing you've bitten too much and not, not, I guess, like just reacting in that moment and
mhm.
spitting it out or making the wrong choice for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, and that sums it up very nicely. I heard a lot of golden nuggets in there.
Yeah. They all came from you,
Yeah.
Rhonda. You were on
Oh,
fire.
wow. Wow. Well, thank you.
Hey,
And
before we close, can you tell us quickly about your T-shirt, Purrs and Paws?
oh yes, Persian Paws.
Love it.
This is a little coffee shop at Eastview Mall in Victor, New York. And the coffee shop has a windowed room where there are a whole bunch of kitty cats. And the kitty cats are up for adoption. So you can either you can have a cup of coffee and sit there and watch the kitties, or there are couches and chairs inside that room. You pay $6 to go inside the room to interact with the cats. and they're all up for adoption.
Oh,
You
there's no
ever watch?
such things as too
Yeah,
much
I just
kitty
love this little
cuddle time.
puppy. Huh?
So there's no such thing as too much kitty cuddle time.
No, no, that I will agree with. Yes. Okay, that's the bewitching hour. Thank you all for joining us here at Cooler Talk with Rhonda and Cynthia. And we'll see you next week. And feel free to give us your feedback or your comments on in Facebook and or on our site.
I
Have
can't
a
wait for next week's topic.
Nor can I.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
take care, everybody. Have a wonderful day.